The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years, and in all that time, one rule remained absolute. It was written in every treaty, whispered in every diplomatic corridor, and taught to every spacefaring species from the moment they achieved faster-than-light travel. Never disturb the humans. Ambassador Vexthor of the Chromath Empire had heard the warnings his entire life. His 4 eyes had read the historical archives, his 3 hearts had trembled at the accounts, and his crystalline mind had analyzed every documented encounter. Yet, standing in the council chambers, watching the holographic display of a small blue planet called Earth, he felt only contempt. The humans looked so fragile, so unremarkable. They had no natural armor, no venomous fangs, no telepathic abilities. They were just soft creatures on a single world. Protected by an ancient treaty nobody could fully explain. The Chromath Empire was expanding. They needed resources, and the Sol system sat in the perfect location, rich with minerals and energy sources. The humans had claimed the entire system as their territory, but they rarely ventured beyond their own planet. It seemed wasteful, inefficient, and most importantly, it stood in the way of Chromath prosperity. "The rule is outdated," Vexthor announced to the council, his voice amplified across the chamber where representatives from 200 species gathered. "We have no documentation of human aggression in 3 centuries. They keep to themselves. They trade peacefully. This fear is based on legends, not facts." The council chamber fell silent. Even the perpetual hum of translation devices seemed to quiet. Council Elder Murith, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline vessel, flickered with distress. "You do not understand," Murith's voice resonated. "The rule exists because of what happened before. The humans were left alone by choice, by wisdom, by survival instinct." But Vexthor had prepared his arguments well. He presented economic projections, military assessments, and demographic studies. The humans had a modest defense fleet, nothing compared to the Chromath Armada. Their technology seemed average, their expansion slow and cautious. The younger species in the council, those who had never witnessed the old days, began to nod in agreement. The vote was called. By a narrow margin, the council agreed to allow the Chromath Empire to make claim to 3 asteroid belts in the Sol system. It was a small intrusion, they reasoned. Surely the humans would understand the need for compromise in a growing galaxy. The Chromath mining fleet arrived in the Sol system on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. 50 massive harvester ships, protected by 20 military cruisers, entered the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. They immediately began extraction operations, their enormous drills tearing into ancient rocks that had orbited the sun for billions of years. The human response came within an hour. A single small ship, barely the size of a Chromath escape pod, appeared near the fleet. It transmitted a simple message in perfect Chromath language. "You are in violation of Sol system sovereignty. Cease operations immediately and withdraw. This is your only warning." Commander Zeknal of the Chromath fleet read the message and laughed, a sound like grinding stones. One small ship against his entire fleet? He didn't even bother to respond. The harvesting continued. The human ship disappeared. For 6 hours, nothing happened. The Chromath congratulated themselves on calling the human bluff. The mining operations proceeded ahead of schedule, with the first cargo holds already filling with valuable minerals. Then the humans returned, and everything changed. They didn't arrive with a fleet. They didn't broadcast warnings or demands. They simply appeared, and reality itself seemed to bend around them. 3 human vessels materialized from nowhere, each no larger than a Chromath cruiser, but moving in ways that violated every known law of physics. The first human ship passed through the Chromath defensive line like it wasn't there. Shields that could withstand nuclear blasts simply failed. Weapon systems that had never missed a target fired uselessly at empty space while the human vessel danced between the shots. It positioned itself near the lead harvester and transmitted a new message. Final warning. Leave now. Commander Zeknal, his pride wounded and his confidence in Chromath's superiority absolute, gave the order to open fire with everything they had. 20 military cruisers unleashed their full arsenal. The space between Mars and Jupiter lit up with weapons fire that could glass a planet. When the light cleared, all 3 human ships remained untouched, hovering in perfect formation. Then they moved, and the Chromath learned why the galaxy feared humanity. The humans didn't destroy the fleet. That would have been merciful. Instead, they demonstrated exactly why the old rule existed. The first human ship released something, a field of energy that spread across the Chromath vessels faster than light itself. Every Chromath ship, every weapon, every computer system simply stopped working. Engines went cold. Life support switched to emergency backup. Communications died. The second human ship began moving through the fleet, and wherever it went, Chromath vessels were gently but irresistibly pushed away, accelerated out of the Sol system with such precision that not a single ship collided with another. The Chromath crews could only watch helplessly as their mighty warships were treated like toys, pushed aside by forces they couldn't begin to understand. The third human ship approached Commander Zeknal's flagship. It didn't fire a weapon. It didn't need to. A narrow beam of light touched the flagship's hull, and suddenly every screen in the ship came alive with information. Historical records, battle footage, scientific data, all of it flooding into the Chromath systems faster than any computer could process. Zeknal watched in horror as the truth unfolded before his eyes. The humans weren't peaceful because they were weak. They were peaceful because they had evolved beyond the need for conquest. 3,000 years ago, humanity had nearly destroyed itself in a global war that split atoms and poisoned their own world. They had learned from that darkness, rebuilt their civilization on principles of restraint and wisdom. But that same species that could turn their own planet into a radioactive wasteland had also learned to manipulate quantum fields, to fold space-time itself, to harness energies that made fusion look like a candle flame. They had explored dimensions the Chromath didn't know existed. They had touched the very fabric of reality and learned to reshape it. The humans had chosen peace not from weakness, but from strength so absolute that warfare had become pointless. They stayed in their system not because they couldn't expand, but because they had learned the hard way that unchecked expansion led only to suffering. The data stream ended with a final message that would haunt Zeknal for the rest of his life. We remember what we were. We chose what we became. We stayed away to protect you from ever needing to make the same choice. You have 3 days to leave this system. Do not return. Within 12 hours, every Chromath ship had been pushed to the edge of the Sol system, their systems restored just enough to limp home. The journey back to Chromath space took weeks, and in that time, word spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The humans had been disturbed. The humans had responded. The humans had shown mercy, and that mercy was more terrifying than any weapon. Ambassador Vexthor stood before the Galactic Council again, but this time his 4 eyes were dim with shame. His 3 hearts beat with a rhythm of fear, and his crystalline mind finally understood. Council Elder Murith addressed the assembly, but the words were directed at all the younger species who had forgotten the old wisdom. The rule exists not to protect humanity from us, Murith said softly. It exists to protect us from discovering what humanity could do if they ever decided to stop being peaceful. We live in a galaxy full of warriors, conquerors, and empires. But we share this space with one species that evolved past such things while still remembering exactly how to wage war better than any of us ever could. The humans chose to be our neighbors, not our masters. We should be grateful for that choice every single day. The vote was unanimous this time. The rule was not only reinforced, but expanded. The Sol system would remain human territory in perpetuity, untouched and undisturbed. New species would be taught not just to avoid human space, but to understand why. The humans returned to their quiet existence, tending their single planet and occasionally venturing out to trade or explore, always peaceful, always restrained. But now the galaxy understood the truth. Humanity wasn't protected by the rule. The rest of the galaxy was protected by humanity's choice to follow it. In the depths of space, on worlds beyond counting, parents told their children the updated version of the ancient warning. Never disturb the humans, not because they are dangerous, but because they are kind enough to let you live despite being more dangerous than you can possibly imagine. And in the Sol system, on a small blue planet, humanity continued their quiet existence, guardians of a peace they had learned to value more than any conquest, keepers of terrible knowledge they hoped never to use again, and neighbors to a galaxy that finally truly understood why some rules should never be broken.